Guys, please help me solve a family dispute. So my beloved brother, please read my sarcasm, who hasn't been in contact with me for the past 5 years, suddenly reached out to me recently asking for a favor. For context, my brother and I were never really close even before we stopped talking. We've always had a rocky relationship. He's 6 years older than I, and instead of being a supportive sibling, he often acted like he was my second father. He was constantly trying to control what I did, always involved in my personal matters without being asked. He made it feel like he had some kind of authority over me, like he thought he was better and smarter or somehow more important. He would act like he always knew what was best for me, even when he didn't have a clue what I was going through. It was like having another strict parent. Growing up, I didn't have the kind of freedom most kids get to enjoy, especially when it came to spending time with friends. I wasn't allowed to go out much. And it wasn't even my parents who were the main problem. It was my brother. He would constantly tell them that girls my age couldn't be trusted, that we were always up to something shady. He'd suggest I was probably sneaking off to meet a boy, even though I didn't even have a boyfriend. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I just wanted to hang out with my friends like any normal person. But he made it seem like I was committing some crime. It didn't stop there. I couldn't even have something as harmless as a personal diary, a private journal to write down your thoughts and feelings like most teenagers do. But my brother would find it, read it behind my back, and then run straight to my parents to tell them anything I had written that he thought they should know. It didn't matter how personal it was. There was no privacy, no space to just be myself or grow up at my own pace. It felt like he was always watching, always judging, always ready to get me in trouble for things that weren't even wrong in the first place. If I got a good grade on a test or did well at something, he never gave me a genuine compliment. Instead, he'd say things like, "Well, it's not that hard," or "Don't get cocky." It was like he couldn't stand the idea of me being proud of myself or getting any attention. He always had to find a way to bring me down a notch. Anytime I got excited about something, whether it was a school event, a new outfit, or even just a silly TV show I liked, he'd roll his eyes and mock me in front of my parents or anyone who was around, turning my happiness into a joke. I started keeping things to myself just to avoid his comments. He made me feel like nothing I liked or cared about mattered. He also had this way of twisting my words. If I got upset or tried to stand up for myself, he'd act like I was being dramatic or disrespectful. He'd say things like, "You're just being emotional," or "You always play the victim," even when I was just trying to explain how I felt. Then he'd tell my parents I was being rude or out of control, and of course they believed him. He was older, more mature, and always knew how to talk his way into their good books. As I got older, my brother would even go through my phone and report it straight to my parents as if I were a criminal. There was no privacy, no trust, and definitely no peace. It was like living under surveillance 24/7. I never felt safe just being myself around him. If you're wondering why my brother acted this way, I wish I had an answer, but honestly, I don't. I have no idea what shaped him into the person he became, and I can't speak for how he was before I was born. All I know is the version of him I grew up with. And that version was always the same, controlling, judgmental, overbearing. There was never a time I can remember where he treated me like a little sister in a kind or protective way. It was always more like he saw me as someone he needed to keep in line, someone he had to constantly watch and correct. Because of how he treated me, I never felt safe or relaxed around him. I could never let my guard down. I always felt like I was being judged or picked apart, no matter what I did. How can you build a real bond with someone when you don't even feel like you can be yourself around them? The truth is, I never trusted him. Not as a brother, not as a friend, not as family. That kind of connection just never had a chance to grow between us. When it came time for my brother to go off to college, he chose to study computer science. At first, it seemed like he had a plan and was going to do something serious with his life. But that didn't last long. He soon started saying that the program was too difficult. And before anyone knew it, he had failed all his exams. Eventually, he dropped out entirely and ended up moving back in with our parents. Just like that. Thousands of dollars went down the drain, money my parents had worked hard to put towards his education. But what really stood out to me wasn't just that he failed, it was how my parents didn't even react. They never held him accountable. There was no serious conversation, no consequences, no pressure for him to explain himself or make up for it in any way. It was like they just quietly accepted it and moved on. After that, he bounced around doing odd jobs here and there, picking up small bits of work just to make some cash. There was no clear direction, no real effort to build anything long term, yet nobody ever seemed to question him or expect more from him. Meanwhile, when it was my turn to go to college, I already knew what I wanted. I had always been passionate about art. It had been a big part of my life for as long as I could remember. Even as a child, I would spend hours drawing, painting, or working on little creative projects. It wasn't just a hobby either. My teachers noticed my work and would often tell me that I had real talent, that I should seriously consider pursuing it. That encouragement stuck with me. So, when the time came, I decided to follow that path and apply to art schools. I was excited and hopeful, and I put real effort into my applications and my portfolio. Eventually, I got into a college that had a strong art program. It felt like a huge accomplishment, something I had earned through hard work and passion. When I finally told my parents the good news, I was so excited. I thought they'd be proud of me, or at the very least, happy that I had a clear direction and had worked hard to get into college. But instead of celebrating with me or offering support, they reacted with disappointment. They didn't seem impressed at all. When I asked them if they could help me pay for the tuition, just like they had done for my brother, they hesitated. Both my mom and dad felt that I should consider going to a different college and study something more practical. To them, an art degree just wasn't good enough. And of course, my brother was right there to make things worse. He mocked my choice and said that going to art school was pointless. He laughed at me, told me that art wasn't even a real career. According to him, creativity doesn't pay the bills. And he convinced them that I was making a huge mistake by following something I actually loved. His words stung, not just because they were cruel, but because my parents listened. I stood up for myself and told him exactly what I thought. I reminded him that he wasn't in any position to judge me or my choices. He had dropped out of college after failing all his exams and ended up doing odd jobs while still living under our parents' roof. I, on the other hand, had a clear goal. I had a real passion, something I was willing to work hard for. And unlike him, I wasn't going to give up halfway through my education. I told him that I wasn't like him. I wouldn't drop out or waste anyone's time or money. But the moment those words came out of my mouth, I saw something shift in him. His face changed. I had clearly hurt his ego. Without any warning, he slapped me hard on my face just like that. I was shaking. My face stung. He hurt me because he couldn't handle being called out with the truth. That moment said everything. It wasn't about a disagreement anymore. It was about control. About him being unable to stand the idea that I might succeed where he had failed. But what hurt even more than the slap was what happened right after. Instead of turning to him and asking why he'd laid a hand on me, my parents turned on me. They didn't ask if I was okay. No, my mom and dad started yelling at me, as if I were the one who had done something wrong. They told me I was being disrespectful, that I had no right to speak to my older brother that way, even though everything I said was the truth. Somehow, in their eyes, I was the one who had crossed the line, not him, for mocking my dreams or for physically hitting me. They rushed to defend him, just like they always did. Didn't matter that I was the one trying to follow a real goal, the one who hadn't let them down. In that moment, all they saw was a daughter talking back to her older brother, and they couldn't handle that. Their loyalty was with him, no matter how he behaved. And standing there, being yelled at while still stinging from the slap, I realized something painful. In our family, it didn't matter what was fair. In their eyes, my brother was always right and I was always wrong. My parents also made it clear to me that they agreed with my brother and didn't want to waste their money on my art degree. Basically, they didn't care how I paid for my college at all. In that moment, I felt so enraged and humiliated by my family. I made up my mind right then and there. I was done with all of them. I was done with being treated like trash, with the constant disrespect. Done with being treated like I didn't matter, like I was just some background character in a story that revolved entirely around my brother. All my life, my parents had favored my brother, and even now they were siding with him, even though he was a literal college dropout, had no clear direction, and lived off their support like a loser. They acted like I was the problem, just because I dared to dream differently, because I didn't fit into the mold they wanted for me. That night, I made a promise to myself. I would leave their home, and once I was out, I would cut all ties with them. No more begging for approval, no more being the one who always had to shrink herself to keep the peace. Eventually, I did move out despite their disapproval, and I've kept that promise ever since. I haven't spoken to any of them since then, and I don't regret it. I had to take out a loan to pay for my college tuition. It wasn't easy. There were times when I worried about how I would manage the financial burden, but I was determined to prove myself, and to everyone who doubted me, that I could succeed on my own terms. I worked hard, stayed focused, and in the end I graduated summa cum laude, which means with the highest honors. It was one of the proudest moments of my life. Since then, I have built a successful career as an artist. I've had the opportunity to showcase my work in several art displays, and it feels amazing to see people appreciate the passion and creativity I put into my pieces. I've also started teaching art classes to students, sharing what I've learned and inspiring others to follow their creative dreams. On top of that, I've grown a large following on social media, where I regularly share my art. Many people enjoy and support what I do, which makes me feel seen and valued in a way I never did at home. Overall, I am thriving and doing well in life. Despite everything, I chose my own path. and it's been worth every struggle. I'm proud of who I've become and excited about where I'm headed next. I haven't spoken to my family in all these years, and honestly, neither have they made any effort to reach out to me. In a strange way, that's been a blessing. It's given me the space and peace I needed to focus on myself and build a life free from the negativity and judgment I grew up with. Last thing I heard was that my brother got married. I wasn't invited to the wedding, but honestly, I didn't care. Recently, one of my paintings was sold to a very high bidder, and instead of keeping all the money for myself, I decided to donate it to help women's cancer treatment. Because of my art and the causes I support, I've been invited to be a guest on several podcasts and news shows where I talk about my work and share my story. I guess my family must have noticed me in one of these shows because, out of the blue, some relatives I'm still in touch with reached out to me saying that my brother and parents had been calling around asking about me. It was strange to hear this after all the years of silence and distance. My brother had also asked them for my number. Fortunately, my relatives had refused to give him my personal information without my explicit consent, which I am really grateful for. However, I guess my brother must have tracked down my public email address, which is listed on my website for professional inquiries. After all these years of silence, there it was, an email from him just sitting in my inbox. He started the message by saying how much he had missed me over the years and that he wanted to reconnect. But it didn't even take a full sentence before the real reason for his message became clear. Without any real apology, no acknowledgement of the past or what he had done, he immediately shifted gears and got straight to the point. Apparently, his wife had seen my artwork and now wanted me to paint her dream family portrait. And just like that, he informed me that he had already assured her I would do it for free. Why? Because I'm family. That was the part that really struck me. After everything, after years of silence, after the slap, the rejection, the complete lack of support, now I'm suddenly family again because they want something from me. He wrapped up the message saying that he and his wife would be happy to meet up and discuss further, as if we could just sit down like old friends, like nothing ever happened. I was quite taken aback by how there was no mention of any apologies from him for all the times he tortured me. Also, he wanted me to create a portrait for his wife, a woman I have never even met. I wasn't invited to their wedding. I wasn't considered family then, but now suddenly I am. Now that they want something from me, I'm basically family and expected to offer my time, effort, and professional skills for free. I couldn't help but laugh at how absurd and delusional his email was. The entitlement practically leapt off the screen. After years of silence and emotional damage, he didn't reach out to take responsibility or to repair the relationship. He reached out with a favor in hand and a price tag of 0, as if I owed him something. I didn't even bother replying to his email, as I felt no obligation to respond. But today, I woke up to another message in my inbox. This time, it was from my parents. As usual, they jumped straight into scolding me for not replying to my brother. They told me I was being a pretentious a-hole for not replying to my brother now that I've received some recognition. According to them, I needed to remember where I came from and do what my brother wanted. This was the same old story as usual, when my parents would paint me as being the difficult one for not going along with what the family expects. Later, my brother sent me a second email. where he accused me of being rude and disrespectful for not responding to him. He has written that he has already promised his wife I do the painting, and now I'm making him look bad by not helping him keep his word. I just don't understand how entitled this man can be, as if I'm the one putting him in a tough spot, when in reality he never asked, he just assumed. He offered up my time, my talent, and my labor without even checking if I was willing. And now somehow I'm the one in the wrong for not playing along. AITA for not bothering to help out my estranged brother and his wife. Update 1. Answering a few questions here. No, I haven't responded to my brother or my parents. I don't plan to. I have no interest in reopening a door that I closed for very real and valid reasons. Their recent messages only reminded me of the same old patterns. Entitlement, guilt-tripping, lack of accountability. That hasn't changed. So neither has my decision. Yes, the email was real. Some people asked if the email from my brother was genuine, and yes, it was. He contacted me through my public business email, which is listed on my art website. It was exactly as I described. No apology, just a request for free work, wrapped in forced familiarity. No, I don't feel guilty for cutting off my family all these years ago. This might sound cold to some, but I've learned that protecting your peace often means walking away from the people who helped destroy it in the first place. I've worked hard to heal and build a life for myself. That boundary isn't moving just because someone suddenly remembered I exist. To those of you who've shared similar experiences with family estrangement or toxic relationships, I see you. You're not wrong for walking away. Sometimes distance is the healthiest choice you can make. Update 2. It's been a few days since my last update. Every day for the past week, my brother has been flooding my inbox with multiple emails. I've blocked him several times. He just keeps creating new email addresses and finding a way to reach me again. It's been exhausting, to say the least. At first, I tried to ignore it, thinking he'd eventually get the message. But his persistence and refusal to respect my boundaries left me no choice. So today I finally sent a response. I kept it firm and clear. I told him that, first of all, we are not family. Family isn't just about blood. It's about how you treat people. And for years, all he's shown me is control, disrespect, and emotional harm. That's not what family looks like to me. I also made it very clear that he has no right to drag me into promises he's made to his wife, especially promises I never agreed to. It's not my responsibility to clean up the mess he's made by offering something he had no business offering. Just because he assured her I would do something doesn't make it my obligation. I'm not a free service he can casually give away to look good. I also wrote that he was a shameless person to come to me asking for a favor after everything he said and did to me. This was the same person who years ago stood in front of me and told me that my art degree would lead me nowhere. He dismissed my passion, degraded my goals, and convinced our parents that I was wasting my time. And now, suddenly, he wants to benefit from the very thing he mocked? That's not just insulting, it's shameless. I made it clear that if he and his wife truly want a family portrait from me, then I will treat them like any other client. Nothing more, nothing less. I told him flat out, I will consider doing the work only if he pays for it in full, up front, like everyone else. I then sent my brother an official invoice, $25,000. That was the amount I had paid for my college tuition, the very degree he once laughed at and said would get me nowhere. I wrote that if he truly wanted me to paint for his wife, he could start by paying back the cost of the education he once belittled. Only then would I consider creating a portrait for them. Let's just say he didn't take it well. Almost immediately he lost his mind. He started flooding my inbox with message after message, each more aggressive than the last. He called me a crazy woman, a nobody, accused me of being arrogant and ungrateful. The irony wasn't lost on me. He was the one who came to me, asking for a favor, and the second I stood my ground, I became the villain in his story. But what disturbed me most was how quickly his tone shifted from petty insults to full-on threats. He said he would destroy me, that I had no idea who I was dealing with, and that he was going to teach me a lesson. It was a frightening escalation and a clear reminder of the kind of person he's always been. The entitlement, the rage, the deep, deep refusal to ever be told no. I haven't bothered replying to any of his threats. Frankly, he isn't worth the emotional energy. But make no mistake, I'm keeping a close eye on the situation. I'm monitoring every message, taking screenshots, and documenting everything. Because I know better now. I'm not the same helpless, silenced person I once was. The girl who used to feel small and powerless under his shadow doesn't exist anymore. This time, I'm an adult. I have independence, I have financial stability, and most importantly, I have the confidence to protect myself. If he thinks he can intimidate or scare me like he used to, he's going to be very disappointed. If he dares to take this any further, if he attempts to harm me, damage my reputation, or harass me in any way, I won't hesitate to get the authorities involved. I'm not bluffing and I'm not afraid. I know my rights and I will defend them with every legal tool available to me. This is not a game, and I won't let his anger, threats, or ego shake the peace I've worked so hard to build. Update 3. As I suspected, my brother didn't take my silence or my boundaries well. Since I refused to give in to his demands and called him out for his behavior, he's been actively trying to damage my reputation. He started by leaving nasty one-star reviews on my professional pages and social media accounts. But it didn't stop there. He went further. He began creating fake accounts, multiples of them, and started posting cruel, targeted comments about me and my character. It wasn't just random hate, it was personal. The kind of stuff only someone who grew up with me could know. Things from my childhood, things no outsider could possibly make up. That's how I knew it was him. His words were filled with the same tone I remember from all those years ago. Mocking, mean-spirited, and full of resentment masked as truth. So I decided I wasn't going to let him get away with it. I went ahead and hired the best lawyer in town, someone who takes cases like this very seriously. We acted fast. My lawyer drafted and sent him a formal cease and desist letter, making it clear that what he was doing wasn't just petty, it was defamation, and we had every intention of pursuing legal action if he didn't back off immediately. The letter laid it all out in plain terms. If he didn't take down every fake review, every false comment, every post made under those fake accounts, we would sue him. Not just for emotional distress or reputational harm, but for everything he was worth. And we meant it. And just like that, he stopped and immediately took down all his fake reviews. It was as if he finally realized I'm not the same person he used to manipulate and bully. I'm not a scared little sibling anymore. I'm an adult now with a career, a platform, resources, and the strength to protect what I've built. It felt like justice, but I wasn't done. Given all the threatening emails my brother had sent me over the past months, I knew I needed to take stronger legal measures to ensure my safety and peace of mind, so I went ahead and took out a restraining order against him. My lawyers informed him officially, making it clear he is legally prohibited from approaching me or trying to contact me in any way, whether in person, by phone, email, social media, or through anyone else. The message was loud and clear. If he violates this order, he will face immediate arrest and legal consequences. This isn't a warning, it's the law. I'm relieved to have this protection in place. For the first time in a long time, I feel truly safe from his attempts to control or intimidate me. I'm done living in fear or walking on eggshells around someone who's caused me so much pain. A few of the relatives who have stayed in touch with me have been aware of everything that's happened. They've been supportive and they've even helped spread the word to the rest of the family about my brother's entitled and inappropriate behavior. And as a result, my brother and my parents are now facing quite a bit of backlash from family members who never expected this kind of drama to come from him. People are scolding them, questioning their actions, expressing disappointment over how things have unfolded. It's rare to see my brother being held accountable by anyone in the family, so this feels like a small but important victory. I also decided to reach out to my brother's wife directly. I found her on social media and sent her a message explaining everything that had been happening, the harassment, the threats. To my surprise, she responded quickly and apologized. She said she had no idea about any of this, that she didn't know how her husband had been treating me behind the scenes. She sounded genuinely embarrassed and upset that things had gotten so out of hand. In the end, I hope my parents are finally starting to feel some shame or regret for the man they raised and the way they enabled him all these years. But honestly, I'm not holding my breath. They've shown time and time again where their loyalties lie, and I'm not sure this will change that. Still, I'm glad at least some family members are seeing the truth. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.